The greatest currency that we all have right now is not the content that we produce. It's actually the relationships that are formed from the content that we produce.
How do we actually make that step from I met you on social media, now I'm talking on the phone with you?
Step one is that person's story. The second part is sharing your story. And this is where, if you've taken good notes, you can start to share your story back to theirs, which creates even more great relationship and relatability. The third part is sharing your passion. Fourth part is something I call your aha moment. The fifth and final part is finishing with the call to action.
Today we're joined by author, speaker, podcaster, LinkedIn lead generation specialist, Scott Aaron. Welcome to the show.
Mark, grateful and honored to be here and excited to talk.
Yeah, me as well. I've been watching what you've been doing on LinkedIn. Very, very impressive, Scott. You've caught my eye. You've caught my eye here. So I'm going to dive right into it. Why should I be on LinkedIn in 2021? Why should I be on LinkedIn in 2021?
There's a number of reasons why people should, but there are also some things that people should not do on the platform if they choose to make it their platform for 2021. Now, I'm going to say this with full confidence, and I know it may seem like a bold statement to those that hear this, but if you leverage LinkedIn the correct, genuine, and proper way in 2021, for any business owner out there, you can unlock an additional 6 to 7 figures in your business. That is where all of the networking is happening. Now, there are 3 main reasons why I made LinkedIn my platform of choice 6 years ago. And I've been saying it every single year that this should be your platform this year. And then it was the next year. And even Gary Vaynerchuk talked about at the end of 2019, he said, if you do not have a marketing plan for LinkedIn in 2020, you're going to get left behind. And people still don't. And they're going to get left even further behind. So there's 3 big things that you need to look at from a social media perspective when deciding where to spend time. Number 1 is the size and the health of the organic network that you can grow. Now, when you look at Facebook, you're only allowed 5,000 friends. And I put that in air quotes because are they really friends? They could be acquaintances, people you ran into at the grocery store, you went to college with 20 years ago, you graduated from high school with that you never spoke to. And then you look at Instagram where, yes, you are allowed unlimited followers, but percentage-wise, Instagram has the highest rate of fake accounts to real accounts on all of social media. Now, when you look
also, I just want to interject, very saturated.
Yeah.
Both Facebook and Instagram, you're going to have a hard time building an organic audience there right now.
Well, you're completely right. And Facebook is the barbecue of social media. That's where people go to commiserate, to hang out, to share what's going on about their life. Instagram is the home of the narcissist. So Instagram is where people go narcissistically to share their life. I call it the Real Housewives or Bravo TV of social media. It's showing this narcissistic, amazing, picturesque, perfect life, not even like no negative things at all. Everything is fine and dandy and beautiful. Now, I'm not saying, be a negative person on social media, but I can guarantee you no one's life looks that perfect. And that's why I have a love-hate relationship with Instagram, because of the narcissism that's going on there. I like being genuine and authentic and real, sharing the victories, the lessons, the bumps, the bruises along the way, not just the quote unquote highlight reel of what most people are doing on there. Now,
I think being vulnerable needs to be part of your strategy wherever you're honed in on. I agree with you there. I mean, there's positive in showing, you know, all the good things that you're doing and all the subscribers and the great picture on the beach, which if you go to Mark Savant Media on Instagram, you can see some of those yourself right now if you want. But I find, and I found this very true with Shay Rowbottom, who's crushing it on LinkedIn, is it's getting vulnerable, putting yourself out there can be really powerful. Are you finding that to be effective for your strategy on LinkedIn?
Actually, the vulnerability is one of the superpowers, but I don't believe in a lot of the core principles that a lot of people on LinkedIn believe in.
Okay.
I do not believe in fancy video editing. I don't believe in making things so overproduced that it's too professional. What I have found is one of the biggest keys to building a successful business is humanizing yourself as often as possible. Looking eye level at the person that is engaging and interacting with your content. Everyone is striving for perfection. Everyone is striving for, I want everything the best, the most perfect, the cleanest, the most professional. Listen, that doesn't exist. Perfection is something that people chase, and it's just not real. When you don't care how something looks or the perception of how other people are viewing and looking at it, you start showing up, like you said, with that vulnerable mindset, with that genuine mindset. Some of the best content that I've shared has been me just walking around in my backyard, holding my iPhone up, shooting a 30 to 60 second video and posting it on LinkedIn. Meanwhile, there's been times where I've sat down and I've uploaded all the graphics and I've made sure that the right verbiage is there, and it fell to the wayside because, again, people want real. They want connectability. The greatest currency that we all have right now is not the content that we produce. It's actually the relationships that are formed from the content that we produce. And I think people end up overthinking themselves to death, where when you overthink too much, you get so engulfed in making sure that everything is looking this way and that way or whatever way it is that you actually lose yourself in the process. Because for me, I do strive to produce content as often as possible that leaves my audience better. But I am more concerned about the relationships that I take from online to offline, because that's the currency and the value in my business. And that's most easily done on LinkedIn. And I actually did a post today, and I did a LinkedIn Live yesterday on it, the 3 fallacies of LinkedIn. People think that you need fancy editing to really get engagement on LinkedIn, and it's just not true. Frank Mengert, one of my good buddies on LinkedIn, did a whole video on the fact that he's going to stop doing all the fancy editing on his videos, and he's just going to do native posting, just cut and dry, one-time record and post it. Because a lot of people spend a ton of money on marketing companies and time, which is the most valuable commodity that we have, on making sure everything has to be pristine. The other thing is that people think that you have to grow the biggest network possible to succeed on LinkedIn, which you're allowed 30,000 connections. But if you have a crap network, if you have a network that's not engaged, it doesn't do anything for your business. It's taken me almost 6 years to get to almost 28,000 connections on LinkedIn. And I've been steady and methodical through the entire process. I don't care how many followers someone has on LinkedIn. If people aren't genuinely engaging with my content and wanting to take it from online to offline, there's no value of that network. It's the quality versus quantity aspect. Well, this is
a very common aspect of social media in general. It does you no good to have 100,000 robots following you. You've seen that before. This is very prevalent on LinkedIn, where someone will make a post, they've got 1 million followers and they get 20 likes. They're like, something isn't lining up here. It's that. I also want to kind of dive in a little bit to a point you made, Scott, about overproduction, because this is somewhat I want to kind of dive into this because I have some mixed feelings about this. I think that on one hand, if you're waiting for everything to be perfect and you have the perfect camera with the perfect lighting, it's never gonna happen, right? You have to embrace the suck. You have to embrace the process. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're standing out. Don't you think that don't you think we should be committed to improving the quality of our videos in the long term?
Well, it's been proven, there's been studies done by multiple third-party companies that the best engaged videos are actually produced from iOS phones or Samsung Galaxy phones, not actual Zoom recordings that are posted. And interestingly enough, a lot of people that are in B2B and B2C, I call it H to H, human to human. That's what we all are doing. 30 seconds to 90-second best engagement and hold the most attention on LinkedIn. Now, if we're talking about LinkedIn Live, that's a whole separate conversation. I just started doing LinkedIn Live producing a few weeks ago. Then you're looking more of a 15 to 20 minute quote unquote training, but also interviews up to 30 minutes. If you're doing just a native little clip, 30 seconds to 90 seconds, but I'm not going to say the least produced as possible. You don't want to put garbage out there, but it doesn't have to be perfect. People sometimes care more about the value of the content above the video than they actually do. And sometimes people will just read the verbiage of what you wrote, which should clearly describe what the video is about, sometimes without even watching the video. And you'll notice that some people view your content more than actually engage with it. So people are looking at the wrong information. And, Mark, I want to, say one more thing on top of the whole network growth thing. I just want people to be forewarned. And I want people to really understand that you will be tempted as you grow on LinkedIn to buy into or be invited into something called an engagement pod, where you get into these engagement pods. There could be 50 to 100 people in there. Some of them are paid, some of them are free. And what you do is you like and comment on all of each other's stuff to drive engagement. Now, if you read articles, that is something called forced engagement, meaning the engagement is being forced upon the content based on an agreement of the collective group. And I always tell people, if you want to produce the best content and you're producing good content, is when people engage with your stuff without you having to ask others to do it for you. But the one thing that I do want to be clear is something that I said earlier. I want people to understand the true value and the true currency of what you need to do on LinkedIn is the relationships that you build from online to offline. That's where all the magic will happen when you're spending the right time on there.
Well, I definitely agree with you on engagement pods. I've been a member of engagement pods, mainly on Instagram, also on YouTube a little bit. And in my opinion, total waste of time. You're like you said, you're getting fake engagement. It's like going to your mom and asking her what she thinks of a painting that you just painted. Oh, honey, I love it, sweetie. Ain't no one going to buy your painting. It's just your mama.
It's a time suck. It doesn't.
Yes.
You're focusing on spending 30, 45 minutes doing all this other stuff when you can be actually doing more productive things with your business. And the one other thing that I wanted to touch on before we move on is this lead generation concept. People, yes, I help people generate leads on LinkedIn, but here's the fallacy. This is the third fallacy. There is no such thing as a lead generation expert on LinkedIn. It does not exist, and it never will. My 8-year-old son can generate leads on LinkedIn, and he can do that. I just have to hold my phone up, and I'll say, Taylor, press the connect button with all these people. And if any of those people accept the connection, ding, 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 that is a lead. Where I stand out from other people, Mark, is what I specialize in, is converting that lead into a qualified conversation that becomes a conversion of revenue into their business. So another forewarning, I want people to stop spending money on all of this automated software that's connecting and messaging for them, that's having no ROI, but also investing in these marketing companies that promise leads when they'll get you leads. But my 8-year-old can do that for free for you. The real value is converting that lead into a qualified conversation that can create revenue in your business.
Okay, so let's talk. Now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of it. We're here with Scott Aaron from scottaaron.net. So let's talk about this, because in my opinion, that first contact is extremely, extremely important, because people don't remember the words that you say. They remember the way that you make them feel. So one of the things that drives me nuts on LinkedIn is I make a connection with someone, and the very first thing they say is, come check out my widget, www.widget.com. And I'm like, the relationship is effectively dead. How can we actually have a good first contact that leads to a sale?
Love this. And I've created something called the magic formula. And what you're speaking on, so I was helping a client today. It's a really funny story. And I was going through her inbox with her, and I was just kind of like coaching her on how to respond to certain people, if it even deserves a response. Mm-hmm. So people that spend time on LinkedIn, you know if it's automated software, because as soon as you send the connection, boom, a message pops up, and dear Mark, right. Click on this link and schedule a call right here. And they're verbally vomiting all over you. It's like this 18-paragraph drunkalog trying to sell you and pitch you. And that's honestly, to me, I immediately remove the connection and block them, because I don't want them having any accessibility to my network whatsoever. So it's protecting you, but it's also protecting your connections. I'm very mindful of that. So I was looking through her inbox with her, and we were just going through some techniques and strategies. And I came across this one message where the woman connected with my client a few weeks ago, and she sent this very auto-generated message. And then 2 days later, another 18-paragraph long drunkalog trying to get them on a call. And then 3 days later, the same 18-paragraph drunkalog a third time. Ugh. So I said to myself, enough. I said, I'm going to handle this one. So all I wrote back as a response was it was an equation. 3 times of no response equals 0 interest. And then I sent that message, and that was it. People need to start do you want to know why people not only are not succeeding on LinkedIn, but they're actually turning it into kind of like a dump at some point, is because of all these robotic messages that are being sent out. So this brings me to your original question of that first impression. I created something called the magic formula, which is a very, very simplistic 3-step formula that anyone can use. And I guarantee you, if you adopt it and you use it, you will get higher response rate for people going from online to offline. Now, the first step is, I would say the preface to the first step is, do not send a message to a new connection on the same day that you connect with them. So if Mark and I became a connection on a Monday, I would not send him a message till Tuesday, because again, people, Mark, have now been pre-programmed that if they get messaged the same day that they become a connection of that person, they automatically think it may be software. So they're less likely to respond to it. So always give yourself a 24-hour delay to message the person. That's let me
just clarify that. Is that you're referring to, let's say I want to connect with Scott Aaron here on LinkedIn, which you should if you haven't already. I send Scott a connection request. He accepts it. I should wait basically 30 hours a day from there.
Correct. 100%.
What about you? Do you like to send a response to me like, hey, thanks for reaching out, glad to connect? Do you like to do that?
So if people, like the way that my process runs is I send out connections every day. And then I go back and see the new connections that have come in, and they have to be 24 hours or older for me to message the person.
Gotcha.
If they're 12 hours ago, they're 8 hours ago, they sit there and marinate until they've obviously are ready to go, and that would be the next day. So if someone messages me and I can tell that it's a genuine message, it's not an auto-generated message, I will respond to them and want to get on the call. But this is more about you leading. So like for the person that's listening to this, you've made a new connection with someone. The connection is now a day or two old, and you want to make that good first impression. So the first step is always using the most important word in the English language, which is that person's name. And you make the messages that you want to send have to be very relaxed and very, I don't want to say unprofessional, but not pushy. So I would basically say, hey, Mark, great to be connected to you. Not dear Mark, comma, space, indent, and then go into the message. It's too stuffy. You just make it very relaxed. So, dear Mark, great to be connected to you. The
so keep it super short. Keep it short. Keep it tight.
Super short. The second part of the message is what I call lowering the drawbridge. So whenever you're forming human connection and trust and rapport with someone, they need something to latch onto. They need to have some sort of sense of relatability or commonality. You know, a great example is when you're on a first date, you start asking that person questions. You know, where are you from? Where'd you go to college? What's your favorite food? You start to divulge and you start to find areas of interest that you would relate to. So when I'm building my network on LinkedIn, I'm only reaching out to people that I know I have some sort of relatability to. Podcasters, authors, speakers, business coaches, because I do all that. So why would I want to talk to people outside of that where I'm not going to have relatability to? So what I do is it's called lowering the drawbridge, where that second part of the message should be your way of introducing yourself to that person where they're automatically going to see a connection. So, you know, dear Mark, or hey, Mark, great to be connected to you. I noticed that you were a podcaster, as am I. Would love to hear more about yours, share more about mine, and how we can support each other here on the platform. Now, I've done two things. Number one, I've lowered the drawbridge. So when Mark is reading this, it's making sense. Scott's a podcaster. I'm a podcaster. That's why he's reaching out to me.
Yeah.
Number two, I use the second most important word in the English language, and it's the word support. So it's been scientifically proven, and I want you guys to really listen to this. It's been scientifically proven that when someone reads the word support and they repeat it in their head, it triggers a release of a chemical called oxytocin. Oxytocin is our feel-good brain chemical, just like dopamine, endorphins, serotonin, cortisol. So the person is feeling good and relaxed as they are reading this message. The third and final part is finishing with something called a CTA, a call to action. Statements lead to nowhere. Questions lead to answers. So if I just said, hey, Mark, let me know when's good for you, he's never going to let me know because I haven't asked. So if I just said, do you have any time this week or next week for a call or a Zoom? Remember, you have to ASK to GET. You have to ask in order to get. So when you can follow that short 3-step process, you're going to move it from online to offline quicker than you realize. And again, that's where the currency of your business now will take place.
Well, and another thing that you mentioned, just to kind of add a fourth aspect to this greeting, is that you're making it about them, not about you. And I think that's a really common mistake that people make when they reach out to me and they DM me, is they're making it all about them. I can help with this. I do this, right? But when you position it in a way of, we are both podcasters, I'd love to know more about your show. If you'd like to chat, find a time here, right? So the more you can make things about the person, I think the better off it is, because like you said, their favorite word in the entire language is their own personal name. So make it about that. Make it about that. So let's say you get on the call with this person, right? Are you going right for the throat? Do you have like a sort of game plan? Do you have an outline? How do we actually make that step from, I met you on social media, now I'm talking on the phone with you?
So I've been in sales and marketing for about 23 years, and I'm only 41, so I started at a really early age. And so I've kind of divulged and described what I do as kind of like the structure to a sales call. Yeah. And there's 5 steps. Step 1 is that person's story. Now, whenever you get on the phone with someone, just like you mentioned before, it's always about the other person. So the goal that I have, that I teach every one of my clients, is to make sure that that person is talking about themselves within 30 to 45 seconds. And like why that is 2 reasons. Number 1, people love talking about themselves. And number 2, people love being listened to. So they're getting that opportunity to share themselves. So that wall of resistance that a lot of people have when they get on the phone or a Zoom with someone they don't know immediately comes down, because here's this person that doesn't know me, and they're more concerned about learning about my story than sharing what they do. So it automatically raises the level of relatability. Now, when you start with their story, you have to pay attention. And this is no lie. I'm going to show you this. And for the people that are listening, Mark can describe this. This is a stack of notes of people that I speak to on LinkedIn. I take notes on every single person. And why I do that is because I have different relatability with different people. So as Mark is sharing his story, same thing. I will write down little bullet point notes on that person's story that I can actually relate to, because I can work that into mine. So making sure you become the best listener possible. And that's what's really helped my business and my wife's business grow. We actually listen to what people say. We're not always about our agenda. They may not be interested, but I want to listen to them because there might be something else that we can do together. The second part is sharing your story. And this is where, if you've taken good notes, you can start to share your story back to theirs, which creates even more great relationship and relatability between you and that person, because now they feel like not only did they get to share their story, but they feel like they're talking to themselves, because here's this person sharing their story and it's just like mine. It's a little bit of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. It really helps raise the vibration of the conversation. The third part is sharing your passion. What drives you? What motivates you? Why you do what you do? So it's always their story, your passion. Mm-hmm. The fourth part is something I call your aha moment. And the aha moment is when you realized, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I don't want to work for anyone else anymore. I don't want to do, this is what I want to do. Because again, if you're connecting with the right person, you're sharing an aha moment that they may have been striving to get to, and they don't know how to get there, but now they're talking to this person that's done something that they're trying to do. The fifth and final part is finishing with the call to action. And I always give people two avenues to go down. So it's always their story, your passion, your aha moment, and it's one of two avenues. Would you like to learn more about how I work with people, or how can we best support each other here on the platform? Now, why that question is so beneficial is because it has a 100% result rate. Because even if the person is not interested in working with you or hiring you or investing in what you do, if they're a networker and they've taken the time to connect with you, they're going to want to find out how they can support one another, whether it's doing a pod swap or doing a collaborative interview or just acting as a referral source. So when I mean it's 100% response rate that you're going to get somewhere with these calls, when you structure it, their story, your passion, your aha moment. Would you like to learn more about how I work with people, or how can we best support each other? You're going to grow your business.
Yeah, I certainly like that keyword support. Support. That is definitely something I'm making a mental and physical note of. Really, really good stuff. And I think the other thing that I just want to interject here is, as someone who's been on the other side of this seat a number of times where people are calling, talk to me on the phone, is you got to be careful that you are really actively listening to that person's story. I think it's a really common mistake. People are listening. They're listening enough so that they know when you're done, so then they can give you their sales pitch. And that's a way to make someone feel small, like you didn't listen to one word I said. So I really like that point, Scott, about active listening, taking notes, being engaged, being interested in what that person is interested in, because people remember how you make them feel.
100%. 100%.
Cool. Scott, before I let you go here, and we are just touching on the tip of the iceberg, you can find Scott at scottaaron.net. You can listen to the podcast, the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast, available to books, all kinds of stuff. You'll see it in the notes below. But before I let you go, Scott, rapid fire. You ready, buddy?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Cool. What is a must-have business item that costs less than $50?
A paper planner.
What is a must-have subscription?
I would say a must-have subscription could be the podcast of your choice that is going to give you those business tools and tips to help move your business forward.
What is a must-have book for 2021? What's a must-have book everyone should have?
Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. It was the first money mindset book ever written in 1910. So any money mindset book that you have read since is based off of this one. So instead of reinventing the wheel, read the original.
Dig that. What is a movie that every entrepreneur needs to watch?
I forget the name. It was the one about McDonald's with Michael Keaton. God, it's slipping my mind. It was the story of how McDonald's came about. I forget the name of it, but it was if you just look McDonald's movie, Michael Keaton, watch that movie. I mean, you see a true entrepreneur. And again, there was some dirty stuff done, but my wife and I, we actually watched that twice. It was a wonderful movie.
Love that. I think there's a moment in that movie where he has a realization that he's not in the food business, he's in the real estate business. And that's
kind of a huge aha moment. Yeah.
Cool moment. Final question here for you, Scott. If you had 10 seconds with yourself 10 years ago, what are you going to say?
Never be afraid of your failures because they open the doors to your successes.
I love that. You can take that to the bank. Scott Aaron, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you and grateful to be here.
I'm glad you enjoyed this episode. I've got several other episodes right here for you. Smash one of these videos to make sure that you don't miss out on the tips, tools, and tactics of industry experts. Let's take that side hustle full time. Smash one of these links.